Hello everyone, I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer and Information Science at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. And this video today is going to make Geometry Wars, basically just a shooter kind of game using the drag and drop interface of GameMaker Studio 2.3. So just if you're gonna know, what is Geometry Wars? I mean, we're at this point, that game is probably 15 years old at this point, so it's possible you don't know. And so, but it all starts back around 1984, thereabouts, where the first twin joystick control scheme game was popularized, Robotron 2084. It's the first one. This game kills you in about 10 seconds the first time you might probably play the game. It's very challenging, especially when they up the difficulty level on the arcade level to 10. Then the game just goes out and just nonstop comes after you. But this is where we're coming from, and those of you who have me for my classes, eventually you'll end up making a Robotron game in one of my classes, and because these are fun games. But the more modern version of that, so that was 1984. This was around 2005, whenever the Xbox 360 came out. I am not a historian when it comes to that, but a very colorful game, $5 on the Xbox Live Arcade Marketplace. And for this, it was worth its $5. This was a lot of fun to play and shoot around and just all sorts of different stuff. There's 3 or 4 or 5 different versions of Geometry Wars that have come out over the years. So if you've seen them, good, that's awesome. If you played them, even better. But what we're going to do is just set up the basic, just the very basic version, nothing complicated. Just get a character moving around, shooting and blowing things up, setting up scores and lives and things like that. So we'll get the basic Geometry Wars game going. We'll set up 2 enemy types, one that just randomly moves and then one that just kind of comes after you. Depending on where you're coming from, this might be the first game that you use a viewport/camera system that GameMaker has, because we're going to make the world larger than the viewport, or basically larger than one window size, so you can actually move around inside the game world. A lot of the other games had the game world kind of move inside of the camera view, but this is the opposite. This is the opposite of what we're going to be doing. Okay, so when it comes down to my sprites, I've already built them, and let me just discuss them with you now so you're ready, so you can kind of come with it. And so I have a background sprite. I stole something from somewhere. I borrowed it. 1920 by 1080, so 1080p resolution on this. And you want to make sure for your background image that you can tell the difference between your background and your foreground. So what I did was I found my image, and then I went into the layering system and I played with the opacity. And I might even play with it more later on, but I made it 25% opaque or 75% transparent. And that's just so that when I put this on a black background, it'll look blurred out, or it'll look darkened out, because the background will play more of a role. You'll see that when we get to that. It's unfortunate GameMaker doesn't allow this layering system to work inside of the layers that they actually set up here, so we'll actually have to set up a sprite for that. But anyway, any 1080p resolution graphic will work, and you don't have to worry about layering if you don't care about contrast, but you should as a designer, as a developer, because if you can't tell what's game and what's background, then what's the point of playing? Because if random things can kill you and things like that, then that's not fun at all. Okay, my hero sprite. Here is my hero sprite. It's a 50 by 50 image, a 50 by 50 pixel image. And yeah, for all of these, especially if you're modifying them yourselves inside of GameMaker, you got to remember to tinker with the collision mask settings to make sure everything works out. So this guy here, whenever you make graphics, and we're going to rotate this thing, you want to make sure that you rotate through middle center, and you want to make sure that your character is always facing the right to start out with, because then you don't have to do any extra mathematics when we start to rotate this object in the game. If I set this thing up to go up, down, or to the left, I'll have to add a calculation so that it's correctly rotated when you go to play the game. So just be careful with that. So middle center, 50 by 50, and pretty much whatever graphic you would choose for the hero. When the hero shoots, here is my bullet. You can find whatever you want, but here is, I'm using 28 by 9 for this thing. See if I can get it centered. There we go, make it a little easier to view. 28 by 9, and I centered it a little off so that it'll look pretty decent when I go to fire. And again, it's middle center so that I can rotate this thing because the character is going to be able to shoot, and you want this thing to shoot in the direction that the bullet is supposed to go. So when it comes to this, what's going to keep the character inside of the world, the wall sprites, we'll show you this. I just created a 10 by 10. I might change the color, but for right now, I just have a 10 by 10 image, not centered or anything like that, because this is just going to be placed around the border of the room so that the characters, the enemies, and the players can't leave the whole room. We haven't set up the room yet, so I'll show you that when we get there. And then for enemies, I just have 40 by 40 sprites that I found again. And this one's just a green character, just it's geometry. They're circles. It's a geometric figure. And the same goes for my red enemy. Both of everything, but the background and the wall has been centered. Because if I do rotate these things, then maybe I'm going to play with one of them just to give it a little more of a spirograph kind of feel. We'll talk about that when we get there. But for now, 40 by 40 centered is probably the way to go for all of these. And if you don't care, if you're just kind of following along, and you can put programmer sprites in here just to kind of get it going. And if you ever want to go back and change things, of course, go ahead and do that. But I just wanted to make sure that I had something a little better than programmer art for this video for you guys, since I had a little time to figure it all out. Okay, so when it comes to the room, here is my room. I'm gonna make a 720p resolution game, but as we were discussing, I used a 1080p resolution graphic. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna create an object for the background, because I was trying this earlier when you can go into background and you can say, oh, set this to be the background sprite. And like it even looks like it's drowned out, and it even looks like it's darkened, right? Like it looks like my background. But when I run the game, don't make me into a liar here. Notice it's fully white. It's going to be very difficult to tell the foreground from the background as you see it here. And even though I don't understand it. Even though it shows here like it should, it doesn't run in the game like you think it should. And it's unfortunate. So I'm going to actually go ahead and create an object, call it background, and put that in and make sure that's behind everything else. And then this will actually work. This was like the hardest thing of everything was like, how do I make this thing go? So, oops, and I want to make sure I used I don't know if this changed, if I touch this. I want to make sure this is a black background. And then for the instance layer, I go in and add this. And now you can see what it looks like. And now you can see that it actually is a lot darkened out. And now you'll be able to see the foreground from the background when we go to play. It's unfortunate, right? It's just there's that extra workaround for GameMaker. Maybe they'll fix that, maybe they won't. But what you can see here is this is the 720p resolution. This, the big square of 4 squares here. This is what the screen will look like, but our game world is bigger. So we're going to actually use the full room here, the full 1080p, but we have to set up a camera setting for that. So just before we get going with that, let me quickly add an object. Oops, I meant to add the background object to the objects, not the rooms. And I go, okay, create my hero object. Go ahead and let's just pop them in. And so I want to center this thing that we say the game itself is going to be 1080p, but the window, like to say the world versus the window space. The world is 1080p, my window is 720p. But I want to make sure my character starts out in the complete middle of this game. So I'm going to have to use what's 920, oh goodness, 960 and 1080p 540. Does that do it? I think that might do it. If I'm off, I can fix it later, and I can put my character right there in the middle. It looks pretty good, right? It looks like it's right in the middle of everything. And now what's weird is if I run this without anything else, what is it going to do? The GameMaker's funny like that here. There's my 720p resolution, and there's my character, and it looks nothing like what I'm expecting it to do. But that's because, again, that we haven't told GameMaker that we're going to start using windows and viewports and things like that. Okay, so that goes into this, everything we want to do goes over here in this properties window for the room. And there's that viewports and cameras. And like, okay, I want to set this up. And so you have to do two things. If I just click enable viewports and then run the game, you'll see nothing draws. It's kind of like I equate it to your cruise control on your car, those of you who have a car and those of you who have used cruise control, where you have to turn it on, and then you have to turn it on a second time to use it. And so this just enables viewports altogether, but I didn't enable any individual viewport. So I have to go in and say, okay, viewport 0 is now visible. Now you see this, basically we're almost back to where we were before. So now this is what's interesting. Like for every other game that we've made prior, whatever we set for the room, that was the window size. But now the window is going to be set based on our viewports and our cameras instead. So this is where I can go ahead and say, okay, my room this is 720p, but we can make the room larger. Okay, there's my giant room, but now I can come over here and say, okay, the world is 1080p, but my camera is going to be 720p. And I know we're right back where we were a minute ago. Doesn't look like anything changed, but we've made this thing much more powerful and much more able to follow the flow of the game. Like we just have one last thing to do down here. What object should this camera and viewport follow? And I go, well, yeah, it should follow the hero. And now, instantly, instantly nothing. That's the fun of all these little settings here. The character's still where they are. You're like, well, is it following it? We don't have any code yet. But what I can do here is say, okay, I want this character to pretty much always be centered. So if I do this, what does this do? This centers my character. And what this means is, this is basically how far from the edge of the screen, horizontally or vertically, should I be before the camera moves to follow the object. So as this is right now, you can see like that's basically half of the window width and half of the window height. So basically this character will always be centered as the game plays. And you'll see that more as we start moving the character around in a minute here. But let me just change this up a little bit, make this just make this 600 and make this 320 so that the character isn't always centered. There's a little bit of area in the middle where the character can move around before the camera starts following. It's just aesthetically more pleasing that way. Okay, so let's move the character around, and then we'll worry about adding walls and start shooting and moving and rotating and all the things that need to go on. Okay, so I'm going to use the wall objects. So let's get those wall objects and let's just get it in the room. And again, you can change the color whenever you see fit later on, but for right now, that yellow is perfect. At least I can see it very well when I'm in my room. And so what I can do now is change my grid settings to be, because those things are 10 by 10, my walls are 10 by 10. And what I can do is, change my grid and do all this kind of stuff. Put a wall in. Let's go view. There's my stuff here. I'm not going to do it right. I'm going to do it there. I'm going to do it a little, not on the complete edge of the screen, but pretty close to it. And then you can actually go, instead of creating hundreds of walls, you can actually go and drag this one. As long as your graphic is purely one image and it's a monochrome color, like this, it's pure yellow, and nothing else, it won't stretch the graphic. And good, I did everything like I wanted to. And then I'm just going to continue on, drag this one down. All the way almost. 2, 3, one more. And then I can do Control-C, Control-V, so I don't have to double my efforts. Oh shoot! Now you want to do the sorry guys, you want to do this against the world space and not the window space. Sorry about that. Of course, because you want the game. Don't want the game to be just that one window. Whoa, come on. The world? What happened? Why can't I get in there? Odd. Hello? Oh, this, sometimes you just, especially when you're using background images and things like that, sometimes you just have to get it out of the way and then bring it back. It's unfortunate. Okay, sorry for the trouble here. We'll get it. I promise you that. All right, and now I can copy these guys, copy paste these guys, and bring them over and do whatever I gotta do. Come on. Oh. No. Sorry about that. This is always tedious for me as being a programmer type. I don't have all the skills you artists have. Go. And one more from the top. It would at this point it probably would have been easier if I just created and did it myself, but whatever, it is what it is. What the hell happened now? Get back here. There we go. All right, so now the yellow completely takes the background like I'm, or like the complete yellow square like I'm anticipating, and it looks pretty good. Everything. If I need to change it, I need to change it. But what's nice about this is only 4 objects, so that if like Geometry Wars, if you've ever played or looked at it, has hundreds of objects, and there's no reason to have hundreds of walls. We only have 4 wall objects to maintain for this game, so that it greatly reduces the amount of overhead that the game has to perform to do collision checks and things like that. So let's see. Even when we run this now, you won't see that. Oh, let me put my background graphic back so at least you can see that. Yep. Okay, so there, but you can't see it because the character is centered. I know it's hard, the what you see, what you get editor isn't really what you see, but since it's centered around here, I don't get to see the walls at this current moment in time. That's just the way it goes. Goodness, 17 minutes. Right. Okay, so moving this character around, I want to use my move context solid functions that I love so much. So to make that work, I have to make sure my walls are solid. Click. And so, because this is basically the only thing that will confine my hero character. And so right now then I can just do a key down. I'm going to use the arrow keys just to make it easy on just understanding. If I do this, then I want code that says, come on, I'll be able to read it. There we go. Move context solid. And then I'm going to say if I'm going up, I know it's kind of confusing, key down up. Like if the key is down, if the up key is down, press down, go up 90 in whatever speed you think. So I'm just choosing 5, so you can see now if I press up, you can see everything moving. You can see my character moving, and now you can see the yellow line up there. And so now I can duplicate this. Now that I have the hard part done, I can do key down, down, whatever that is, and say 275 here, and then I can duplicate again. Or key down left. Left is 180. And yes, you might notice if you do this right that you can speed up if you go diagonally. It's again using real code and going a little further, we can do a lot more to make sure that we do everything professionally, do everything right. But for right now, everything's okay. So I'll do 0. And now I should be able to move around. And since I made that wall solid, I cannot go through the wall. Here we go. Just to make sure, just to test to make sure everything looks nice and everything is nice. Maybe 5 is too slow, maybe 5 is too fast. That's for designers, that's not for me. Again, I would add hooks so the designers can tinker with that so they don't have to bother me. But notice how it's nice. The camera follows me around. The background is nice and gray so that it doesn't interfere with the bright colors in the foreground. And the character is confined to the space. So one more thing I want to do before we push on to anything else is have the character be able to rotate basically where the mouse is, because that's where we're going to shoot. You're going to move with the arrow keys and you're going to shoot with the mouse. Not the best UI. It's not going to be a dual stick kind of game. We're not going to worry about that kind of stuff. We're just going to do a more modern version of that. So the drag and drop element I want to make this work is I want a set point direction, and I want this in a step event, because every game frame that mouse is going to be moving around, and every game frame I want the player to see exactly where that mouse is pointing and to be able to see exactly where the character is pointing to. So what you can say here is set point direction, and I'll say mouse X, that's an underscore, mouse Y, that's a game, those are GameMaker built-ins for the X and Y position of the mouse in world space, not view space or anything, in world space of your game. And now when you run this, nothing will change. Like, what in the world? Why is nothing changing? Brad lies to me, all these things. Say what you want about that. But what's happening here is it sets direction. Direction is a different property than the image angle. And so in this case, like if I just, let me just do it. Don't follow along for this step. I'm going to be erasing this in a second. And if I say, well, what if image angle is equal to direction? Because it says set point direction. And I got to make sure I spell direction correctly. And so now what you see is, yeah, now you see this and you go, Brad, what's wrong with you? Of course, this works totally fine. But what happens is, if I go like, oh, maybe it won't work. Maybe I can't. There we go. I can't move right now because if I rotate the image angle, the bounding box rotates along with it. And when that occurs, I cannot move because I'm stuck. And as much as you can't see that, the bounding box has me stuck inside the wall. And I cannot move. Who wants a game where you rotate while you're against the wall and then you're dead because you can't move? So like I'd have to find a way to rotate to get myself out. And it's a pain in the ass. It really is. So this isn't going to work. And so maybe you've seen this in other videos, depending on how many of my videos you've watched over time. This is great on a step-by-step basis to figure out what direction the thing should face. But at the end of the day, I don't want to modify that bounding box. And so what I can do in a draw event here, it's a 3-step process. This is only here and only for a brief moment in time do I set that image angle. And I set it equal to whatever that direction was. And then I call and I say, okay, draw. Draw self is basically, because I'm taking over the draw event from GameMaker, so the draw self says, pretend like I didn't take everything over. What would you have drawn right now had I not done that? And so it'll draw it, and it'll draw it to the screen angled. But then, if I put the image angle back to 0, that'll put the bounding box back, and we're totally fine again, and we'll never be able to get stuck because essentially the bounding box never rotates. Let's just say that. This is, and again, it's a little mini hack, but it makes it so that your character can rotate now. I gotta use the right keys for this. And now I can rotate, and no matter what I'm doing, I can move around. Because the bounding box never shifts. There's never a collision against the wall because the move contact solid functions do its job, and everybody's happy, and now everybody can work. So we've got our basic movement down for our character. Yay us, right? So that's all we want to do for the hero. Now I guess we should add some shooting, add our bullets in, and then we can continue on to our enemies. This might be the first time we dynamically generate objects as well, depending on where you're coming from, depending on the game. Because in this case, we're not going to place any of the bullets. We need to create a bullet object type, basically as our template. But we're never going to place these in the room when we start the game. They're going to be generated when I, basically click the mouse button or whatever it is I want to do. So there's my bullet sprite, and these don't need to be solid or anything like that. We took care of all the sprite properties previously. Well, let me make sure that the collision mask on there. Yep, that's looking fine. For the bullet, let me make sure the wall is looking good too. Yep, okay, so everything is looking good. If you've had my other videos, you know that I just get frustrated because these things get changed somehow. And GameMaker, it's a bug right now, at least with GameMaker. And okay, so coming back, so have some fun with this, if I do a mouse, like you got to watch out for this. You would think I would just jump to mouse and then do left down and all this stuff. But all of these presume that the mouse is within the bounds of the sprite. Isn't that weird? I mean, it is, but it isn't kind of weird. Because like if you just, I don't want to do it or anything. But I don't care where the mouse is because the mouse could be anywhere. If I click, I want you to fire. And that falls under the globals. So I want, for right now, I'm going to do global left down. That's going to be the event for mouse key. And so what I want to do in that case is let me just get things going here. Let me just do an instance create. And I can say I am going to create a bullet at my position in the instances layer, because that's where this game is right now, the instance layer. And we could say if we had more layers, we could worry about that. I'm going to come back to this in a second, but just to show. Maybe not. Oh, there we go. So I click, and there it is. I can move around, I can click, and you can see where this is going. Like, there's going to be a ton of bullets. And so right now, I'm fine with that. If you don't like that, you can make it global left press, but then you're going to give your players carpal tunnel because they're going to be clicking nonstop. And right now, I don't want, this game is simple enough. I don't want to add the complexity of like a little mini timer so that you only fire every 6 game frames or something like that. But that would be something like that. I'm holding down the button, but the game only fires at a certain rate that isn't 1 per game frame. Okay, but anyway, so the one thing you noticed is maybe that the bullets obviously don't move. That's one thing. And the other thing is that they all face to the right no matter what, right? You probably see that now, right? So I need to change those 2 things. And forgive me here if I just completely botch this in drag and drop. Of course, I know how to do this in code, but this target can be very important. And so what I believe I'm doing here is I'm setting up and saying create a bullet, but for the rest of the code, the rest of this drag and drop, I'm going to call this thing ints. Whatever bullet I created, I'm going to call it ints, like for instance. And if I reference that down below, that means the bullet I just created. And it's temporary, meaning when I'm done here, this just falls away, and I never use ints again because it is a temporary. I'm only using it for the brief moment that I can get the direction going and then also get the speed going. So let me see what I can do. This is always tricky in the drag and drop. So what I can say for set speed in the direction, I can say, I believe I can. Let me just say that ints dot direction is equal to my direction. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. This is where things get tricky because hold on, let's just try it. It's not going to work because I think it's not going to work. But let's see. If I try it now, I click, 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 click. Okay, so nothing is being modified. And I meant, oh goodness gracious, doing 16 things in my head. What I meant was set speed direction and set speed to 12 here. But you can see now that didn't work like I anticipated. That's actually pretty cool. You could use that to have like oh my goodness, you could put on an effect for like if you're moving, you could put a little fire behind you. Oh goodness, right? This is this is not what I was expecting to do. So what I wanted to do is for ints applies to ints. Now, and this is one of those things you just have to take over and just say, okay, GameMaker, leave it alone. And even when you do this, it says set speed to 12 on ints. But it only shows you that when you minimize it. Isn't that frustrating? But I believe this will now do it. There we go. So it's at least moving. Let's say okay. So I'm setting the direction to in whatever direction to 12 for ints. Okay, but I also need, obviously we were discussing here, I need to actually set the direction. So this is weird because I'm like, whatever direction I'm going, set the speed to 12. But right now, the direction is always going to be 0. Let me see if I can set direction. Again, drag and drop is always set point direction. No, I want set point, set direction variable to 4 ints. Again, this is where things get complicated. 4 ints. And in code, it would be so simple because you would see, it would be very obvious to you what you're doing because you have to close this to minimize this to see. Set the direction to whatever direction I'm in. And this is where it gets confusing because ints.direction is face direction. This direction is me as the hero. So it's like find the hero's direction and then set the direction of the instance to whatever the direction of the hero is. And once you've done that, set the speed to 12. There, well, that's not doing it, right? So what's going on here? Set the direction for ints equal to the direction that the hero is moving, because again, in that step event, the direction is moving everything according to the mouse pointer. So what is going on? What did I not do correctly? Oh, drag and drop. So what I did here to fix this up and get it how I want to is I said, okay, on ints, set the direction to hero.direction, and then on ints, set the direction to 12. And so again, you can only see that if you minimize this. You can see the on ints. That you don't see that here into temp ints. You don't see on ints for anything else when you minimize these things. And now you can see when I run this, you go click, 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 and now you can see they're going all around. And now the final step here, oh my goodness, on top of everything else here, that image angle, let me see if I can get image angle through a drag and drop so I don't have to cause any issue. Yep, set instance rotation on ints. So complicated. Set it equal to its direction. And we'll just say hero.direction. And so if everything is pointing to the right, you do this correctly, now you can see everything is shooting like it's supposed to. And again, this is, it's going 1 per game frame and it's coming right out of the middle. It's kind of cool, right? And I can move around and fire and things like that. But now the bullets look like what they're supposed to. Let me just change this to, one more time here, to mouse, global, left pressed. So for me, I don't mind the extra clicking, at least for the moment. So I have to click. There we go. Now when I'm going around, I have to click to fire. The game isn't just hold down the mouse and move around. You now actually have to have a little bit of skill to it to be able to move around. Okay, thank goodness. Drag and drop. My goodness. Drag and drop made this more difficult than it needed to be. So in code, this is we would have been done 5 minutes ago. But anyway, so that sets up the movement of the character, that sets up the shooting of the bullets, and that moves that opens up the movement of the bullets. So now the final thing before we need to add enemies, I suppose, is, well, if the bullet collides with the wall, well, we should probably destroy the bullet. Destroy self, which is the bullet. But before I do that, how about I put a little effect up here? I say do effect, and I love my fireworks. Those of you know me from Frogger. Say above objects, relative to position, and it's a blue bullet, so I'll put like somewhere in between, like the darker blue and the lighter blue, somewhere in the middle. You can see it right there. Will that work? Will that look good? I don't know. Let's just try it though. There we go. There we go. And it looks pretty good. Yeah, I like it. You can make it a little, if you want to make, I'm just saving the, I'll use medium for I'm using large for the obvious explosions for real things here. There we go. That looks better. Boom, 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 boom. And so when it hits the wall, the objects destroy because they don't need to go off through the wall or anything like that, and off into space and create memory leaks over time. And then you have yourself a nice little effect. Okay, so moving on now to enemy types. Let's go ahead and do that. So one thing for a game like this that gets a little frustrating is that you move around and then like if I try to click things, I accidentally click outside the window. So let me show you how to go full screen with this, and let me find it. It's been a while since I've done that. The heck is it? Grips, tension, patience. Where is the? Oh goodness. Game options. There it is. Oops, game options, and I want to do pretty much Windows. Double click, bring me in here. So there's a few things in here that, like if I go into the graphics side of things, display the cursor. Yes, we absolutely need to display the cursor during this game. We could actually fix this up, and maybe I'll put in a little reticle here in a couple minutes. But yeah, start full screen, yes. Allow full screen switching, sure. I think what is it? Alt Enter. I forget what it is to do the actual switching. And then this, these are always off, but I'm like, we have computers that are well capable of handling these things. Interpolate between pixels, colors, so that, you know, especially with my graphics that are just very pixelated and very pure colors with very little anti-aliasing, you want to do these kind of things. So just resize the window. Now we'll probably leave that one alone. And borderless window, sure. So now when you do have the window anyway. So now, but the only problem with this is, yep, it runs on my other screen. So you can't see that it's working. But you could do it yourself, but it is working. So I'm saying that you can do full screen. And let me see, Alt Enter? Alt Enter. And now I have a windowless border that I can't drag. All these things. How do I get this thing to go? How do I drag the... Anyway, but I'm going to put it back. But I'm saying those are the options that you have in order to change games up. So Alt-Enter will bring you in and out. Maybe there's another F key or something like that, but I'm not playing with it too much. Okay, so with that solved, let's truly move on to the enemies. I'm just going to real quick here add the enemy, the red enemy. This one's going to be a very simple, just random kind of thing. We're just moving around. I'm going to change a little bit around so it looks like it's, I kind of alluded to it earlier, what's called a spirograph. So it's going to look like it's kind of rotating around because it's not going to be centered in its center point. We're going to change the centering. And so let me just put a few of them in the room right now. And then we can talk. Alt, boom. Okay. We're going to erase these later, so don't put too many in here for right now if you are, that's what you're going for here. Let me see. Oops, I keep forgetting I'm already back into full screen mode again. So let me get out, Alt Enter, quit. I quit. Close. Anyway, okay, so we have them in here, so let's talk about adding the behaviors and making it look like it's pretty cool and then shooting it and killing it and all. Okay, so mostly this isn't going to be too bad. It's just the rotation that's going to throw everything off, because as we discussed earlier, for the hero, I already had to take over and, where is this draw event there? I already had to kind of take over the draw event so that the rotation doesn't ruin everything and get you stuck in a wall. It's the same kind of idea for the red enemy when we get this thing going. I mean, if all you care about is just getting the thing moving and you don't care about the thing rotating at all or anything like that and making it look kind of a little bit different than just normal, all you need to do in a create event is just give it a direction and a speed. And let's see, direction, set point direction, set direction, variable, yep. And I'm just going to I'm going to say random 360, so that means it'll pick a random direction, anything, and then I'll say give it a speed, and I'll give it nice and slow. You can change it however you want. I'll say direction 1, and that I changed everything. Now you can actually see everything moving around. Pretty cool, right? There they are, moving nice and slow. So we're going to have to fix the bounce, of course. That's a collision event between the red enemy and the wall object. And let's see, have they fixed it? There's no bounce. Why is there no bounce drag and drop? There's hundreds of elements. But anyway, so you have to write code to make that happen. And you say move, whoops, well, if you can see what I'm trying to do. Move, bounce, all, and you want to say false, because you could have pixel perfect bouncing, and we don't want that because pixel perfect bouncing can only cause trouble for us the way we have our graphics set up. And so move, bounce, all with a false. So now everything, say if this is all you care about, just moving the thing around, You're done. Here it goes. Dink. Dink. And now, oh, that was interesting. Why did it didn't seem to bounce like I was expecting it to? Bounce. Interesting. It's not. Maybe the graphic. Let me look at the graphic. GameMaker's always trying to help us. Always trying to help us, but in the process, sometimes because I was expecting the bounce to be kind of like a normal, what you expect when you bounce a ball off a wall or something like that, but it just seemed like it just came back at exactly the same angle. It just did I did move bounce, right? Interesting. But anyway, I guess we'll just move on for the moment. I don't know. That was weird. Was that every bounce? I'm just thinking because these things are spiky, that there's a problem with them hitting the wall. See how that one, yeah, bounced backward. And then this one, yeah, watch this one right here. It'll go back this way. Why is that? I'm very interested to understand why. Nothing in here is screaming out that it's handling the pixel perfect collision or anything like that. Or maybe I have the, well, let's just try true and see what happens. Let me go back into that object and say move bounce all. And just the true. See what happens. I mean, there's a reason for that parameter, right? Okay, so let's see what happens now. Nope, doesn't change anything. I'm very, very intrigued as to why it's not working right. But anyway, we can fix that later. Okay, so what I want to do here, moving on, is say put in a step event. And say I want to be able to rotate. So there's no way to, is there no rotate? No, that's not even close. And so I want to apply the image angle. Okay, set instance rotation, and I want to do 6. You'll see, okay, what does that do with relative? Make sure you do relative. Oh, maybe 6 is way too, well, is 6 way too much? Doesn't that look cool? Isn't that cool? And so maybe a little slower, maybe 3, so it's half as fast. There we go. That looks a little better. There they are, rotating. And what I was saying here is like, yeah, they're just kind of going in space. But what's really cool is you don't have to change anything in code. But if you just go into the sprite and you take this origin point and you just move it over to here somewhere. Oh, did I lock it or something? Interesting. Everything is so interesting. Anyway, so what if you make this, like, just seriously, make the center point off the sprite somewhere, -10, -10, and just run it there. What happens? Watch now. Look how that changed everything. Look how they're spirographing. Look at that. That's all it is just, the rotation point has been modified. But now, look at this now. There's no, the bouncing is putting the character through. Gotta find a spot where it's doing it here. The bounce puts the thing through the wall. See, it did collide. There it goes, and it's coming back. Are you okay with that? I'm okay with that. My only worry is that the characters go off the screen and then we lose them forever. So one way to test that would be put like an outside room event or something like that to see if these characters actually fly off the screen and then go off to infinity. But so far, I don't think we've lost anybody. Another way to do it is just to let it run for, like, put 10 of them in there, a number that put 10 of them in there, let it run for like an hour. Or maybe 10 minutes or 5 minutes or something. And then see if there's still 10 of them in the room, just to make sure that one of them didn't leak out. That's not exhaustive testing, but it's, it's pretty good testing. I'm going to trademark that. It's pretty good testing. And I think we can leave this alone at that point. So I think the characters, it's okay for these things to go outside the bounds. If you really care, I believe all we have to do is just put in a collision or just the rotate event. Let's just try. Let me just do it and see what happens, since this is the only fun I have all week. Okay, so I try to rotate the object, and then if there's a collision with the wall, I try to rotate, and then I say, hey, did I collide with a wall relative to my position? Because remember, the bounding box changes in accordance with the rotation of the object. And so what we can say here is, if there is a collision, after I rotate the object and there's a collision, just put it back. And let's see how that changes things graphically here. All right. I mean, hey, it is what it is, right? So it gets stuck, and that's kind of how it would do in real life, right? You're like, oh goodness, they get to a wall and they kind of stick. I thought the bounce would be a little more profound, but maybe without getting into too much detail. This is supposed to be a simple class, right? A simple video. So it's your choice. If you like it this way, leave the code in. If you like it the other way, take this code out. And you're the designer, right? Like, I'm only doing this stuff for you guys generally. When I'm programming this, I'm only doing this for you. And so if you don't like it, you tell me and I'll get rid of it. I'll change it. I'll figure out a way to make it work, or I'll tell you it's impossible, or I'll tell you it'll take too much time, or I'll just tell you what's wrong with you or whatever. But it's supposed to be when you're working together, it's supposed to be the designer gets most say, but other people can have a say too, and just kind of and bring them back to within the realm of what can we make in the time and the money we have to make. Okay, so red enemy done. Other enemy, where I can never new stuff. I can never find it. Okay, was it green enemy? This one should be pretty simple comparatively. Here, let me hit enter. And then green enemy, green sprite. If you want it, I don't even know if rotating will do anything. Let's just try it out. Step. Let's rotate this maybe a little slower. So let's see, there. Oh, I can actually use. Forgot that. All these drag and drop elements. There's a million ways to do certain things, but no way to bounce. And I'll set -2. I'll go backwards. Nope, I don't have any in the room. I'll drag a couple in here. Oop, there we go. Boop, boop. And right now we don't care about killing them or anything. Or let's just see what they look like in place. Oh, they kind of look. They do. Oh, they kind of look like they have almost like the atomic structure of something that's in the second period or something. Pretty cool. Okay, so maybe like carbon or something. It looks like carbon almost. You got the 2 electrons in the front, the 1s, and then you get 4 electrons in the 2s. Sounds good to me. Okay, so we can actually give them that, and then also in a step event, we can say, let's see, move toward. Let's say towards. There's got to be a move towards point. Move towards, not jump to point. Move towards point. But there used to be. No. Jump to point. Move towards. Move. I get more when I do move. Move, mouse, and keyboard. No. I'll have to take a second here to figure out exactly what I'm trying to do. Because I want to start moving the character toward you. Because I want, because he's trying to go after you. The other one is a little more passive, but this one's much more aggressive. Well, unless I find that at some other time, I'm just going to have to do something like this and say, okay, set point direction toward hero.x, and here that's my guy's name is hero, hero.y. That'll set the direction, and then in a create event, I can give him a speed. I don't know how fast to do this. He should be faster than the other guys, right? So let's say speed. Set the speed to 3 maybe in the direction, and then so that set point direction will work on a frame-by-frame basis. And there you go. Well, you can't see it, but they already congregated on my location. They're all following me. You could do that where you can just make them go around, and then you could shoot them all. Boom, 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 boom. So that's a downside to this right now, but you can see that the character's going after me. So I think it's okay. There we go, and then he gets the shakies whenever he gets too close. But I really think that's it for enemies. Like for right now, just to get some simple, some different enemies on the screen, 2 different kinds. And we say the sky is the limit. Look at any video game. My God, you guys have played millions of video games. You know what characters are capable of doing. Whatever you can imagine, as long as you can communicate what you want to someone else, or you do it yourself, you can get what you want. Okay, so now let's talk about putting these things into a system where the characters get generated, and basically every 10 seconds there's a wave coming at. So in order to do that, right now I'm just going to go back into the room. I'm going to delete everything. Come on, here we go. And then I'll put the hero back right in the middle of everything. Let's grid settings, 960 by what is it? 360. Nope, that ain't it. What is my 960 by 540? There we go, and then drop my guy. Why am I not allowed? Oh, there he is up here. There he goes. Okay, back to normal. Okie dokie. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a timeline. We're going to create a timeline. And I'll call it spawn T-line for timeline. And moments are like, this is like a mini alarm or a more complex alarm system. Moment is, think of game frames. And so what I can do here is say at, and this is where the interface on this isn't the best. Am I allowed to just go back and type it? Oh, good. I don't think I was allowed to do that the same way back in the day. But I can say, I can go like this and go, okay, I can give you, I don't know how to edit this. Hold on, how do I go back in and edit that? Edit, nope. Come on, edit. Oh goodness, edit, there we go. No, change moment. Okay, so I'm gonna say 180, which is 3 seconds in, and then I can use my drag and drop elements, and I can just say, okay, let's see, random. Let's see what we get. I set random direction, get random, get random. I want to create an object in a random spot. So I'm going to say create a red enemy, and I can say random, and I can say, just to keep it simple here, I'll say random room width, because put it somewhere in the room, and then I can say random room height, put it somewhere in the room. And what's cool about this is I can also say repeat. I think I can. Oops. Repeat this however many times. To say give me 6. Give me 6 red enemies. And then I can do the same thing here. Control C, Control V. And I can say give me the green enemy. So this will give me 12 enemies on the screen. The only problem is that right now I have to go, because if I run the game right now, there's no enemies in my game. So it's a very boring snooze fest. Oops, where did my background go? What did I do? Uh-oh, I moved something, deleted something. I guess I deleted the background object while I was doing everything else. So I guess I can just drag it back in. Go. But I say it's a very boring game. 0, 1, 2, 3, and there's nothing going on. And so now, oops, now the background is in front of everything because of everything I did. So let me drag that up to the top. There we go. Because you can see the background through the wall. Now, yep, everything's back to normal. 1, 2, 3, no objects. So you have to give this thing, you have to start the timeline somehow. Like everything else, it's just a tool sitting on the side. So in a create event, I can say start timeline. First, you gotta find it. Timeline. Set instance timeline for. Where are the timelines? Spawn. I think that's set timeline moment, set timeline speed, state. Nope, we're good. And I can just say start spawn T-line 0, 1, 2, 3, and there they are. Isn't that cool? And then if I want to reset this and say, whatever, all I have to do is go back into my timeline. And now I have to say this moment, and now I can just do drag and drop elements like I was a minute ago here. Say for timeline, set the moment back to 0. So then every 3 seconds you'll get 12 enemies. And again, that's up to you to determine how hard the game is, but I just want to give you the mechanisms to make this thing work for you. Uh-oh, some of them can get stuck in walls. This is not a perfect system. I guess I'll fix it up. I'll show you how to do this. in a second here, but I'm going to hard code it to the way I set up my level. But let me go ahead and do that. Oh boy, without the chance to kill everybody, this game is getting hard. Okay, so we'll do that in a second. Without making things too complicated, we can just kind of change up how we, there we go, let me zoom in on this. It's just because I'm setting this randomly that sometimes it'll randomly put it at location 1 or location 0, which is outside the room or touching the wall, and it'll get stuck. So if I just do it where I say 100 plus room width minus 200, something like this, and I say 100 plus random height minus 200, and I do that for both, and then for both here, that the objects, because of the way because I've hard coded this, the objects can never get stuck in a wall because I am making sure that that will never happen. Let's see if I'm 100% on that. Maybe I don't have the numbers exactly right, but let's see. But there's, everything is, see, nothing is against the wall, and just as every 3 seconds we keep adding and adding and adding. Oh my goodness, this is getting to be crazy without the ability to just kill everything. Oops, and it's not full screen. So yeah, right, and then we'll add destruction here in a minute, and then we're ready to move on to bombs, and then we're ready to put in the HUD and call it a day. A lot going on in this game, right? Okay, see, yep, nothing is stuck in the wall, because we made it so that we randomized it so everything will be inside the actual play field. Looks really cool, right? Now the next question is, how many game objects do you need before you get slowdown? And that's completely dependent on your specific videos or your computer system. That has nothing to do with anything that can be, programmatically gained. And if you have the upgrades for for GameMaker Studio, you can actually go ahead and use the Yo-Yo Games compiler instead of the virtual machine. I'm not using the compiler just because I want to make sure everything I do works on your system, and there are slight differences. But if you use the compiler, the game ends up compiled instead of transcoded and translated and all that stuff, and your game runs much, much faster. So you could have more objects in your scene if you spend the extra money and upgrade your compiler. Alrighty, so let's kill these guys. Pretty easy stuff, right? So if the bullet, we already got that here. We can kind of, in a way, we can kind of duplicate this. Duplicate collision with green enemy, and I can say, okay, give me a medium bullet, but then also give me let me duplicate this effect. Give me a large. And so the enemy is, I'm talking about the green enemy, so give me a large green explosion at the same time. Now the hard part is just finding which green, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to pick one and go. But just give me a large green explosion, maybe a little offset just so they're not right on top of each other. And again, this is just aesthetic appeal. I'll just try 5 pixels over. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. And I want to make sure I destroy both objects when that occurs. Destroy myself and destroy other. So right now it only works on the green enemy, or the green ones, and boom. You're not going to notice the green on the blue. That's already oh, did I not pick? Did I not? Oh, I don't know what I did. I didn't pick I picked the color, but I didn't okay it. What did I? There it is. Okay. Like, why is it so blue? So anyway, here we go. Now here's the explosion. Here we go. Let's try it now. Let's see if we can see two different colors. Yeah, we can see 2 different colors in that explosion now. That's not the right green, but that's neither here nor there for right now. And the problem with randomization is, yeah, they could spawn right on you. There's a chance that these characters will spawn right on you. And again, there are many more complicated ways to go about doing this, but we're not going to worry about it today. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this for collision with red enemy. And just basically change this color to something that's a little more red. I mean, that's it, right? Oh, that's not red, but that's okay. So now we've got ourselves, boom, there we go. So now everything can be destroyed. Not me yet. We'll do that later when we do lives and all that kind of stuff, lives and score. But now we actually have a game. Like anything else, we have a survival shooter. We've got it going on. I'm just gonna keep playing for 20 minutes. Is that okay with you guys? No. So okay. So moving on to the next big thing here. Let's talk about the bomb. Maybe you don't know. Like the bomb is something that should just incorporate the entire game field and destroys everything. So you want to make it. You want to make it feel pretty cool. And so what I'm gonna do, just to keep it simple. Again, this is just keeping things simple, showing you the bare bones minimum to get things going. I'm gonna create one more sprite, and this is going to be the bomb sprite. And again, there are many more ways to do this without wasting so much space. And I'm going to call this the bomb sprite. The over-encompassing just explosion that takes over everything and destroys everything but you. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to resize this thing to 1920 by 1080, because that's our entire world, right? Our entire game world is 1920 by 1080. And I have to make sure when I do this that the collision masks, yeah, because you need this collision mask. I'm getting smart enough now to remember to do this every time I change things, and make sure I encompass the entire image. There it is, the entire thing. And all I'm going to do is make this white. I'm just going to go into the image, and I'm just going to flood fill the entire thing as white because it's oops, and there we go. And this thing is just going to flicker. It's going to flash. And we'll get it going, and then we'll destroy, and then we'll show how to destroy all the objects. Okay, so then what do I do here? I say I have my sprite. I need my object, of course. In alphabetical order, but it's not in the order I expect it to be. This is bomb. Bomb object uses bomb sprite. Okay. So then what I'm going to do here, when the hero, because I have global left pressed, when the hero creates or generates a global right pressed event, I'm going to have it generate a bomb, create an instance. And this one should be 0, 0, because it's going to do the whole screen. So it's going to say, okay, give me a bomb at 0, 0, and that's it. And let's just see what happens. It'll let me. There it goes. And then I hit right click, and there it goes. Boom. That's cool, right? But of course, this should only last for for just a brief moment in time. So what I want to do here is say on, like, where do I want to put this thing? Like say on draw end, like as far into the frame as I can go. What do I want to do but destroy? Because I only want this thing to exist for one game frame. And now I right click, boom, 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 boom. And then what I can do then now is come back to like red enemy. Do I have any code in here for this? It has collisions with things. But basically all the stuff that occurs with the bullet, so I can basically duplicate this event, and oops, copy the event, sorry. Copy it and move it over to the bomb, and say if there's a collision, or I guess that's the problem with these things. Where do you put these collision events over time? Like you have to kind of pick and choose. And I would say maybe we put them in the enemy themselves. So it's always tricky. It really always is. And that part of it is, as long as you keep working on your project, you'll remember these things, but you forget later on down the road when you've been working on this thing and you come back to it a month later or something like that. So I say, okay, when there's a collision between the green enemy and a bomb. Oh wait, hold on. Will it let me do that? Nope, never mind. Here, let me delete this. Delete. And do the paste event, and then change the actual collision to be collision with bomb. There we go. And then I don't want to destroy the other, and I don't want to have anything but my own green explosion, because the bomb is doing its own thing. So let's see. This should now destroy everything here. That's the green enemies. Boop. Nope. Wow, it's not doing it. But not what I was expecting. So let's go back into the bomb. And I think it's just this draw event kind of thing. So what I can do here is say on create. And this might be a hack, it might not be. Set the countdown timer to 1 frame. And now when the timer goes off, now destroy yourself. Let's see if that GameMaker has issues when it comes to these kind of things sometimes. Let's see. Boom. No, it's not destroying. My last step, let me just try moving this to 2, and then it's me. If it doesn't do it in 0 frames and it doesn't do it in 1 frame, then it's me. It's my code. Nope. And I think it might come down, is my green enemy, is the sprite. Oh, we can shoot and kill it though. So yeah, so what am I doing wrong? Let's find out. I create this thing. We can see that it's coming and going. It's using the bomb sprite. It's taking over the whole screen. The green, when it collides with the bomb, we set off a firework. We say destroy yourself. That's interesting. I don't know what's going on, but there's something going on. So let's see. Let me see what I can do. And GameMaker has some bugs because I think it's when I copied and pasted this thing from object to object, maybe something was off because all I did was I deleted this collision event and I put it back and it works. And this is becoming more and more frustrating for me because I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for 15 years. Like I know, there we go. See, like I right click and I bomb and there it goes. So I'm like boom, 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 boom. And so it absolutely works. Just GameMaker in version 2.3 is buggier than it has been in a long time. There's a lot of little things, and say, granted, they're doing a lot of cool stuff, adding some cool stuff, but you're breaking core stuff in the process, and that's not cool. So coming back now, I'm just going to borrow these two, and then I'm just going to say when the red enemy collides with the bomb, I'm not going to copy the event, I'll just copy the actions. When this go in, and I just go in and set this thing, find the color again. I don't care necessarily, I'm just finding a color, make sure it's orange, and now everything should now destroy. Boom. Okay, good. Phew. And now we have an impossible game to lose, or almost impossible, because all you have to do is just keep clicking. You don't even need to fire your bullets anymore. So then our final step here, now that we have a working game, and again, it's working, is to generate the HUD so that I can have some score, I could show you my lives, and I can show you how many bombs you have left to play and make it a complete game and finally call it a day. So we're getting there. Like technically we're done if you don't care about a HUD, but if you do, then we'll need to go ahead and do that. We're going to do that right now. Okay, so let's set up lives first, and then we can set up score, and then we can set up the bombs. And that's it, and we're done. So lives, pretty simple stuff here. When the hero starts up in a create event, let's give him some lives. I'll give him 5. Set lives to 5. All right. And so, like, how does he die? He collides with any of the enemies, right? So what I can do here is on collision with red enemy. Essentially, what I can do is decrease the lives, but we can keep this simple because you're like, oh my god, destroy all the green enemies, destroy all the red enemies, destroy all the yellow enemies, destroy this, do the boom, boom, boom. But how about I just do a bomb? Just set off a bomb. So instance create, where's instance create? There it is. And just set off a bomb at 0, 0, like we've been doing, and just decrease the number of lives. So if I touch the red, right now if I touch a green enemy, nothing will happen. If I touch the red enemy, boom. Maybe reset the timer. Yeah, maybe reset the timer as well on the timeline. The timeline moment to 0. So you got 3 more seconds to get back into it, because otherwise everything comes right at you immediately again anyway. So let's see. Green object, no, but red object, boom. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Good. Okay, so that perfectly works out. It works out just fine for us. We don't have to do anything complicated. And now I can duplicate this for collision with the green objects as well. I don't know why that keeps coming up. Something on my system, I suppose. There's a lot of events in here, right? But it's all good. Everything's working out fine and nice and dandy. So now what we can do is draw the lives on the screen. And this is where, let's say, this is not a draw event. Draw goes to the world space. Like basically the world, right? And so and then draw GUI would go to a camera image. And that's what we want to make sure, because we want to lock this thing to the camera. We do not want to lock this thing to the world. So all I have to do then is just go over here and say lives. Go draw lives. Where is it? Find it. Draw instance lives. Oh. I want to stack order horizontal. Ooh, that'd be cool to put vertical. Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to use the hero sprite. It's going to get a little, I mean, you can change up and make it a little more, do whatever you want with it. Pick a different sprite or whatever. But where do I want to put this thing on the screen? I want to put this thing kind of in the middle. I'm not going to complicate things too much. Let's see, 640, 640, 400, about maybe 2.5, about 590, and then I'll use 10 for the Y. Okay, maybe I'll have to fix this up, but you can see they're up there. Let's see, 2.5, and bring this in a little bit, 570 for that, and then maybe 25 for that. See what that does. There we go. And it almost looks centered, And again, you could fix it up. And then there's my 5 lives. Oops. Oh, geez. I got hit twice. Oh, boy. Ooh. Oh, because why is that happening? Why am I dying twice? And that's because while I was trying to fix everything, this is the, oh my God, bugs on bugs, right? Because even when you're trying to fix things, when I had the bomb in effect here, remember how I set this thing to a 2-frame timer? So you would die twice because the bomb touches you for 2 frames. So I need to go back and adjust that so that when I die now, I will only die once. Boom. Oops. Oh, God bless America. Oh, goodness gracious. This is just hilarious. GameMaker. So this is why I don't like drag and drop elements so much, because when you write code, you dictate the order of the operations. And so you have all these events fighting each other, and it's a race condition. This one loses, and it creates itself and destroys itself before the collision event even occurs. So the bomb goes off, but it never seems to destroy itself. Alarm 0, but no, that's not true. Why wouldn't it destroy itself on a countdown timer of 1? I'm so confused now. Oh, wait. Now was I imagining something? Because now it's doing it. And now I got to go back and watch my video and go, am I losing my mind? It's Halloween for me here. I just watched scary movies yesterday. I'm losing my mind. Oh, it's only when when I do it, they all destroy. That's interesting. But when I die, I'm a hero. Interesting. I wonder what's happening. Again, I'll have to figure it out. All right, let's just get over this hurdle and get done with it. So I fixed things up. I hacked it. I admit it. And it comes down to the fact that, like I said, it's a race condition. These things are fighting each other to go off, and they're affecting each other. And say when you do a drag and drop when I do drag and drop, there's many more race conditions, and so I'm used to writing in code, and I'm used to basically dictating and eliminating those race conditions myself. So you've seen me fight through this already 2 or 3 times today. I brought this alarm count down, this count timer down back to 2 in the create event of the bomb. Because again, what's happening is the object is being destroyed before the collision event ever even occurs, which is just frustrating how things work out, just the way the order of operations work. So I brought this back to 2, and now where's my hero? Here, with the hero collides with red enemy, I create the bomb, I reduce my lives, and now I reset the timeline, and now all I do is I also destroy I wonder if there's, yeah, destroy the other object, which is the red enemy. So there's no collision 2 times in a row that could reduce me down 2 times. And now I can be, now I should be able to duplicate this for the green enemy, the red and the green. Maybe that error message is screwing things up. I have to check to see what that is. But now let's see. I right click to kill. Oh boy. I right click to kill everyone. That's good. But let's see. I touch a green one. Everybody blows up. I lose 1 life. I touch a red one. And and I lose 1 life. I lose 1 life. And I lose 1 life. Okay, so let's just get this done with. I want to get this video over just like you guys do if you're even, how many people even make it this far? Maybe 1 or 2 of you, who knows? But anyway, don't know how many people watched the whole video. So we have ourselves destruction. We can reduce our lives. We can maybe put in a step event here and say if my lives is equal to -1, or we were discussing earlier, if I make this 4 lives, in a different video anyway, I was discussing earlier, if I make this 4 lives and in a step event, I check to see how many lives I have. If the number of lives is less than or equal to or just say less than 0, then I wish I could do this without having to do code. I could just say, oh, execute code and say show message, game over. And then when you click OK on that, then we restart the room. Not necessarily the game, but at least restart the room. So now let's see how that works out for us as we play through. I've got my 4 lives, my 4 extra lives. I've 5 total. Okay, down to 4. Try out all the possibilities here. Down to 3, down to 2, down to 1. Or maybe 2 guys hit me at the same time there. And then game over. That's all I care about. Game over, and then I can restart the game. This is, again, this is never meant to be perfect. This is just to get you guys going and just give you some possibilities for how to make some cool stuff here. Boom. 3. Just try it one more time here. 2. 1. And then game over. Okay. So lives is taken care of for us. So then the final, the second to last, the penultimate step here is to add the scoring. So I just have to figure out when, and just for how to do this, I can say if I set lives, I can set score to 0 to start, just to be on the safe side. When I hit the red enemy on collision with, oh, I guess we'll do that with the bullets. In the bullet, if I collide with the green enemy, this is where things get a little tricky. What I have to do, well, everything's been tricky so far today because GameMaker is fighting me today. It's like trying to catch that fish in the fighting me. So I'm going to say set score 50 relative, but I'm going to do that for hero. And you have to minimize it to see it. I wish they could show it to you even when it's not minimized. Add 50 to score on hero. And I can just copy this. Can I, though? Can you copy this, Brad? And then maybe make it a little harder for the other ones because they're coming at you a little more difficultly. So let's try. Oh, we can't see the score right now, but it doesn't break. That's a plus. Okay, so to draw the score, I'm just going to keep it. Should we? Yeah, what the hell? We'll add a font, and I'll add a font. Call it score font. I'll use just something. I always pick the worst ones. Yeah, that looks fine. 40, too big. 20, too small. Goldilocks, 28, fine. I'll use that for my score font. And what I can do now, coming back to my hero, coming back to the drug GUI event, because everything's going to be in the drug GUI. I'm going to set the font to my draw font here, score font. I'm going to draw a score. Gotta find it. get score, set score, draw instance score, and I'm not going to put any caption this time, and I will put it, we got to figure out where to put it. I'll put it at 105. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. There's my score. 50, 50, 100, 50. Why is everything 50? 50. Oh, did I just reverse them? Anyway, I'm so I've made so many. I'm so flustered right now. But anyway, you get the point. There's my scoring. You don't get any points for using the bomb because that's a cop out. Boom. Very cool though, right? Okay, cool. So the final step here is then the bombs. And so one thing I want to make sure is that you only have so many bombs. And we don't have anything set up here for, we say we have things set up for score and lives. We'll have to maintain the number of bombs manually. Oh, what did I oh no, go back in. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to set up a var. I'm going to call it bombs. I'm going to call it, and you say, you start with 5 bombs. Okay, and so what I can also do is draw that number on the screen. So I'm going to go over to draw GUI one more time. And now this one I have to draw myself. So I have to say draw value. And my caption will be bombs, colon, this. And now where do I want to put this? Oh, my value is bombs. It's a variable. And I want to put this, I'm using the same font, so I'll put this at y of 5, but the x value, 1280 minus this, minus that. Let's try 11. Let's try 1111, because I'm feeling lucky today. Lucky number for me. Okay, so there is my bombs 5. It needs to be over a little bit, but you know, hey, I tried it out. Let's try 1021. I don't know why I'm adding the 1 here. Yeah, there we go. And again, we can fix this up later, but it's in there. It's there. Perfectly. We got everything going for us. So now every time I click, I'm going to have to reduce that bomb number down. So on global right pressed, I create a bomb, but if the number of bombs is greater than 0, then create the bomb. And then, where's my var? Then reduce the number of bombs by 1. What do you know, right? Now I have a limit. Because I have to have a bomb to be able to create it. And then the display will show me that. Because I go, okay, I got 5. On everybody. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And now I can't create anymore. I have everything done. I'm going to slip out of here into the night now. Oh boy. So now, but now I'm out of bombs, and now I got to survive whatever I got to do, survive and just hope for the best. But that's exactly, let me bring this back. That's exactly what's going on now. So I have to set all of that up, set up the variable here in your create event. I drew it to the screen here using a draw value. And then in the global right pressed event where I go to create a bomb, I make sure I have bombs before I create one. And when I create one, I reduce by 1 relatively so that the number goes down, because that makes sense. And that's basically that's a simple inventory system, right? Because you now have an item that is disposable, resource management. I can only use them 5 times, and now I can't do it ever again. Okay, so if you're even watching at this point, if you know a better way to do anything I'm doing, especially in the drag and drop environment, please send me a comment to swardb@cod.edu or here on YouTube. And I would love to hear it, because maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm not understanding just a simple understanding of how drag and drop environment works, but maybe I'm not. So thank you, as always, for dealing with me and putting up with all my nonsense. We made a pretty cool game today. Now the sky is the limit for what you want to do to add more enemies and whatever else. You have a good baseline starting point for this. I'm proud for that. And now on to bigger and better things like voxel and all the other stuff in my video series moving forward. Thanks everybody. Have a great day. See you next time.